Okay, so here's where we'll really start to bring everything together, and I'll show you the other side of what you can really do with the modes that's super cool. It's pretty tough for me to show fingerings for scales on a video here, so I really do encourage you to go to the website, if you're not there already, and find the page that corresponds to this lesson. It's called Map of the Fretboard. So the first thing I want to do is associate a fingering with each mode, and I'll demonstrate here in G. I'll scoot in with my handy-dandy high-tech zoom, and I'll show you, hopefully you can see this. So G Ionian is going to look like this. I'm starting on the G here every time. Do that a little slower. And then the G Dorian would look like this. Again, starting on the G. And the G Phrygian. The G Lydian. G Mixolydian, the G Aeolian, and finally G Locrian. So now check out what happens here. I kind of touched on this idea in the lesson earlier in this mini clinic on parallel thinking, but I'll go over it again now that you hopefully have a little better understanding of everything that's happening. So remember the principle of enharmonic modes, and I'll demonstrate now what you can do with that using G Mixolydian, and I'll play a little groove here over a G7 chord. Scoot in a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I can play the Mixolydian fingering off of G. But if you remember, G Mixolydian is derived from C major, and so are a whole bunch of other modes, right? So A Aeolian is also enharmonic, also derived from C major. So over this G7 groove, I can also think an A Aeolian. So here's A, and I'll play the Aeolian fingering. B Locrian is also enharmonic, so here's B, and I'll play the Locrian fingering. Now I can also use the C Ionian fingering, and I'll point out that B Locrian and C Ionian are going to be right next to each other on the neck of the guitar, and they have the same exact 7 notes, and it's virtually the same exact fingering. It's just that for the Locrian I started on the B, for Ionian I'll be starting on the C. Use the D Dorian fingering. I can use the E Phrygian fingering. I can use the F Lydian fingering, and I'll point out again about this one, it's right next to the E Phrygian fingering, and it's virtually the same exact fingering. Again, the Phrygian just starts on the E, Lydian will start on the F, but it's the same exact fingering. that covers all 7 of the fingerings, and you can see how I just covered the whole neck of the guitar in this mode. My dog just walked through. But I covered the whole neck of the guitar using G Mixolydian, A Aeolian, B Locrian, C Ionian, D Dorian, E Phrygian, F Lydian. And I covered the whole neck of the guitar. That's the beauty of the modes as a map of the fretboard. Just remember that as I run through all of those different fingerings, that whole time I really still am technically in G Mixolydian, and that's determined by the chord that I'm playing it over, which is a G7 chord. All I'm really doing is thinking in those other modes to get me to some different places on the neck of the guitar, and it also just puts me in some different fingering patterns and brings out some different ideas. So that's why I really like to think in those other modes, but really the whole time I'm technically in G Mixolydian. So a couple other pieces of advice that I can give you about these fingerings is, for one thing, you'll see that a couple of them are kind of awkward. I'm thinking of the Ionian fingering and the Mixolydian fingering in particular. Those two, to me, if you do them from bottom to top, they're not the most convenient fingerings in the world. But if you take, say, just the top 4 strings of the Mixolydian fingering, that's a really useful little piece of the scale that I use all the time. So don't be afraid to break the fingerings down into smaller pieces that you can make some good use out of. Another thing that you might notice as you're practicing these fingerings is that there are some that you'll probably like better than others. And that's great. Find a couple that you're really comfortable with and figure out how you can use them. So I happen to like the Phrygian fingering a lot. Now if I'm playing in G Mixolydian, the Phrygian mode that is enharmonic with that would be E Phrygian. So I would look for the Phrygian fingering off of an E. I'll play that G loop again for a second so you can hear what it sounds like. Now I like this E Phrygian fingering a lot. It works right on the 12th fret here. So if you find a couple fingerings that you really have a preference for, don't hesitate to figure out how to apply them to whatever mode you want to play in and make good use of those fingerings. Another piece of advice that I would have would be to just not try and learn all this stuff all at the same time. What I would recommend doing is pick a particular song that you're working on in a particular mode and learn how all of these fingerings apply to just that one mode. Then when you're good on that one, move on to a different mode in a different key and learn how the fingerings apply. You'll notice, if you haven't already, that a lot of rock music pretty much happens in one of about 5 keys. Most rock is going to be either E, A, D, G, maybe occasionally in C. That'll cover probably 80% of all rock and roll will be in one of those keys. So learn those keys first, and once you have D and E figured out pretty well, if E flat does happen to come up, it's not too hard to figure out how E flat sits right between D and E. So just learn it little bits at a time. Don't try and learn it all at once. At this point, you're probably ready to go ahead and head over to the Modes workshop on my website. And there you can get actual diagrams to show you how to play each mode fingering, and it'll show you where to play it, and it'll give you some play along loops that you can try this stuff along with.